When it comes to technology like smart grid, one state is always worth watching. Of course, it's California. And today, 3 of the state's biggest IOUs, that's investor-owned utilities, not the notes the state's handing out instead of cash, but investor-owned utilities, briefed lawmakers and staff on their smart grid projects and how Washington can help through the DOE smart grid grants. Clean Sky's Dan Goldstein was there. So Dan, given how badly California is hurting right now, how important is this for these companies?
Well, it's going to be very important for all 3 of these companies, given the budget crunch in California and the likelihood that they're not going to be able to get some of the assistance they want from the state. Keep in mind, November 17th, 2008 is a very important date. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger signed Executive Order S-1408, requiring that California utilities reach 33% renewables by 2020. That requires them to make a 1% jump every year. So they are really under the gun in this case, and that's why they're looking at the federal government for some help, especially the DOE. We heard from PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric today, which represents Northern California, Southern California Edison, and San Diego Gas and Electric, which, as you imagine, represents San Diego, and they're a unit of Sempra. Now, all of them are planning to integrate smart grid technologies. That includes smart meters. In fact, San Diego is looking at putting in 2.3 million smart meters by 2011. They are also looking at smart appliances, some of the things we've looked at here on Clean Skies News, made by General Electric, kind of appliances that know when the peak and minimum loads are and can actually run at the best time for the rest of the grid. Now, 12% of renewables, 12% of power in California already comes from renewables, hydro, geothermal, and solar. And the trick is going to be, according to PG&E, tying them all together in a smart grid, especially when those plug-in hybrids that you talked about earlier arrive. Here's what PG&E's Darren Duffer, their chief lobbyist on Capitol Hill, had to say.
California is leading the nation in renewable energy, and how are we meeting a sustainable future? So I think if you look at all of the various ideas and technologies that the California IOUs are pursuing, it's really to try to figure out how are we integrating all this together and making sure that we're doing it in a smart and meaningful way that still allows for a secure and a balanced and a reliable grid.
Now, one of the things, Susan, that they are looking at planning-wise vis-a-vis the grid is California's plan for high-speed rail. California already has about $2.2 million from the federal government from the Stimulus Act back in February. That's to basically build a high-speed rail line between the Bay Area and Southern California. California also has $8 million in bonds coming from the voters. Believe it or not, they approved those last year for more high-speed rail. And so obviously they have to plan to integrate that electrified high-speed rail plan into the grid's plans. That plan could start in 2011, and they're looking at basically a full build-out system by 2030. Now, I'll give you an idea how much electricity that takes. The Washington, D.C. Metro runs on 720 volts. 25,000 for the Acela in the Northeast Corridor, so you can imagine how much juice this is going to take from the grid for that project.
Okay, so Dan, what are some of the California utilities asking for from DOE?
Well, that's interesting because one of the things that PG&E is asking for, they want $25 million from the DOE for a project that would actually push compressed air into caves and allow them to run, believe it or not, wind turbines when the wind isn't blowing. It would put that in compressed air in. It could generate as much, this is what PG&E says, as much as 300 megawatts over 10 hours. And Southern California Edison is also looking for about $25 million for a 25 megawatt per hour lithium-ion battery to help it store power as well, to help it increase its share of wind power. Susan.
All right, Dan Goldstein, thank you.